Welcome to the show. You might have heard we had a little something called the midterms. We're going to analyze, dissect, reject, eject the results in just a second. But first, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and click on the description below so that you are on our mailing list so that you do not lose any of our videos. Because for reasons that escape me, we have been demonetized on YouTube. I know. I can't imagine why or how. Maybe it's because of things we said about the election in 2020. Maybe it's because of the things we said about COVID. I do not know. However, I do know this. If you don't want to miss any of the videos, click on the description below and get on our mailing list. And by the way, the first half of the show is free, absolutely gratis. Second half of the show, you have to be a subscriber. How are you a subscriber? Go to LarryWithEpoch.com. LarryWithEpoch.com. It's that simple. Now, Joe Biden had a great night given the expectations of a red wave. Ron DeSantis had a massively good night given that he carried Miami-Dade County, believe it or not, about over 70% Hispanic. He did not carry it when he ran for governor, but he sure carried it big time this time. And you could make an argument that Donald Trump did not have a good night, all of which we are going to get into. But first, the Democrats really thought before the midterms were all counted, they were going to get wiped out. Here is what this pundit on MSNBC said before the election night began.
I think this is the greatest indicator that we have to always talk about voter suppression. One key thing, it's almost 5 o'clock, right? In the state of Georgia, thanks to Brian Kemp and Raffensperger, they changed the state law so that you cannot get a provisional ballot in Georgia before 5 o'clock. So if you waited in line for 2.5 hours, got there, and they said, oh, there's some sort of mistake, you can't get a provisional ballot here. The level of voter suppression is beyond anything that we saw in 2018. So I think it's completely up in the air.
Oh, my God, it's worse than Jim Crow. It's Jim Eagle. Already, he was coming up with excuses for why they were going to have a bad night. Now, this Democrat strategist, again, before the election started, before the votes had been counted, ripped Biden for accusing voters of aligning with semi-fascists.
Voters have told us all year what they care about, and I think we have focused on other things. And I think the president's closing message last night about democracy is on the ballot again is frustrating to people like me who, don't want to see half the voters in America alienated.
Here she is saying that Biden's argument that democracy is on the ballot distracted from the things people care about. Again, this is before the midterms were counted.
Or saying we're being accused of aligning with fascists because they're voting for their pocketbook. That's just not where we want to be. We want these people. We want them back in 2024. We want them to feel good when they go to the ballot. We have a story to tell. Yeah. We have a really good economic story to tell. The last time the Republicans were in charge, what was their economic plan? They gave away tax cuts to rich people and corporations.
Oh, Biden gave us a bad message. My goodness. Talking about Americans being aligned with fascists, although he said semi-fascists. She was not happy, again, before the midterms were counted. And the Republicans thought they were going to have a great night. Mike Pompeo.
Lee's going to be the next governor of New York. It makes me smile, Harris. Not because Lee's a friend and a patriot, and I love him, but because it's really good for the people of New York. They're going to have a Republican governor who cares about them, who'll protect them, keep them safe. It's going to be a great day. Lee has run a really good campaign because he has spoken to the things that matter for the people in New York.
Again, this is before election night. And Lee Zeldin, the man he's referring to, running for governor as Republican against Kathy Hochul, thought he was going to have a good night, too.
Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, is a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I look forward to writing a story in January of 2023 about how well Governor Zeldin is working with Mayor Adams to save New York City. That means overhauling cashless bail. That means amending Raise the Age. I will declare a crime emergency on day one and suspend cashless bail, less is more, Raise the Age, HALT Act, and the discovery law changes, and force the state legislature to come to the table. On day one, I'm going to tell the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg that he is being removed for his refusal to enforce the law. That's what New Yorkers want. They don't want to be told to look away, and they also don't think any of this is a joke.
Again, this gives you an idea of how confident Republicans were before election night. Now, Joe Biden before election night said he was cautiously optimistic. Now, politicians always say that. I'm confident that Joe Biden thought he was going to get wiped out. Why? Because normally a president announces after the end of the midterms they're going to have a press conference or at least a statement, and the Biden administration did not put out such a statement. So I think Biden thought he was going to get wiped out, but even though he thought he was going to get wiped out before the midterms, here's what he said.
I'm optimistic, and I'm always optimistic.
The Democrats win the House?
I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can. I think we'll win the Senate, and I think the House is tougher.
Now, regarding inflation, as you know, 40-year high. And inflation was under 2% when you-know-who left office. Now it's at a 40-year high where people are paying anywhere between $400 and $600 a month more for the goods and services they paid for 2 years ago. But the Democrats had a good night. It appears that the Republicans are going to take the House, and if they do so, it may be only by about 4 or 5 seats, if that. Right now, as we speak, the Senate is still up for grabs. Certainly, it wasn't the 3 or 4 seat game that many Republicans, including moi, thought was going to happen. Now, apparently, this line that the Biden administration has pushed out, that inflation is a worldwide phenomenon, registered with more people than I thought. It is a worldwide phenomenon because, as Milton Friedman has explained, the great Nobel laureate economist, governments create inflation. How? By spending and by printing money. But the Biden administration has said it's a worldwide phenomenon because of COVID and because of Ukraine. It was echoed by the former senator from Minnesota, Al Franken.
And the Inflation Reduction Act is going to attack inflation. And of course, this is a global problem. Inflation is higher in Europe. So this isn't Biden's inflation. This is a worldwide inflation.
Well,
because in Europe, they tax and spend and print even more than we do. So yes, it's a worldwide phenomenon because people have governments around the world that tax and print and spend. So we don't have to tax, we don't have to print, we don't have to spend. And how come all of a sudden it took off when Joe Biden went into office? But my point is, in the midterms, it's pretty clear that the defense that Biden has offered, that is a worldwide phenomenon, has resonated. This year, we witnessed almost every kind of negative economic record, from empty grocery store shelves to 40-year high inflation. Do not let your savings wither away. Hedge against inflation with gold from Birch Gold. Visit LarryForGold.com for your free info kit on diversifying into gold. Plus, when you do it this month by Black Friday, get a free gold bar with every purchase that you make by December 22nd. With almost 20 years experience converting IRAs and 401ks into precious metal IRAs, Birch Gold can help you. Do not allow the left to devalue your savings. Visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free info kit from Birch Gold. Again, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account, and Birch Gold will help you do it. Once again, visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold and ensure your eligibility for a free gold bar with every single purchase. Secure your future with gold. Do it today. Well, the Republicans, again, are expected to take the House, again, not by the 15 or 20 seat margin that some were predicting. It may be small. It still, however, has not yet been determined. But if it is, it'll probably be 5 or 6 seats. Kevin McCarthy did a victory lap, but Nancy Pelosi, the current speaker, has not yet conceded. However, a big night in Florida for Senator Marco Rubio, who ran for re-election, won by double digits, but an even bigger night for Governor Ron DeSantis, who won by 20 points, including taking Miami-Dade County. Why is that big? Well, because he didn't take Miami-Dade County when he ran the first time, and he lost it by almost 18 points. This time he's carried it by almost 10 points. And what's really important is Miami-Dade is almost 70% Hispanic. And Ron DeSantis was feeling good when he found out he won.
Now, today is the culmination of the 2022 fall elections, but in reality, Americans have been voting for many years now. They've been voting with their feet, and the results of that behavior has been just as stark as our landslide victory today.
This man is a bona fide rock star within the Republican Party. He stood down the Republican establishment over COVID. Let's remember when he did that. The CDC, and if you cut on CNN and MSNBC that I watch, that you don't have to, they're all calling him all sorts of names. On The View, they refer to him as Death Santis, Ron Death Santis. And he stood down the Disney woke community. And during Hurricane Ian, he was Johnny on the spot, rebuilt a bridge that had been blown down in a matter of days when the projections were that it was going to take a lot longer than do that. And he brought it under cost. The man has been competent.
States and cities governed by leftist politicians have seen crime skyrocket. They've seen their taxpayers abused. They've seen medical authoritarianism imposed, and they've seen American principles discarded.
Now, when I ran for governor, a lot of people told me that they love Donald Trump. I'm crazy about Donald Trump. I campaigned with him, for him, voted for him. And in the event that he becomes the nominee in 2024, I will proudly vote for him again. However, a lot of people said, why the drama? Why insulting so many people necessarily? Why picking on every single fight? We like Ron DeSantis. He's got all of Trump's strengths, his courage, his guts. People told me without the baggage.
The woke agenda has caused millions of Americans to leave these jurisdictions for greener pastures. Now, this great exodus of Americans, for those folks, Florida, for so many of them, has served as the promised land.
Now, it is not at all clear to me if he's going to run, but I will tell you this. I was in the arena in 2004 when this skinny, young state Illinois senator gave the introduction speech to John Kerry. I'm referring to Barack Obama. He lit up the place. He got elected to Senate. And then immediately people suggested that he run for president. And remember, initially he said, are you kidding? I just got here. I barely know where the bathroom is. But he realized that the forces that come together, that propel you to the nomination, don't always come together again. And as a young, fresh face, he hasn't made very many decisions, which means he hasn't made very many enemies. He hasn't taken very many positions that have turned off people. He felt that even though I'm young, even though I don't have very much experience, even though I'll be running against Hillary, who's far better experienced, far better funded, now is a time. Who knows when the stars are going to align like that again? I'm confident that as I speak, Ron DeSantis is probably going through that same analysis.
We have embraced freedom. We have maintained law and order. We have protected the rights of parents. We have respected our taxpayers, and we reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
Is that not a great line or what? Florida is where the woke goes to die.
People have come here because our policies work. Leadership matters. We refuse to use polls and put our finger in the wind. Leaders don't follow, they lead.
And in particular, he's referring to the way he handled COVID. He unlocked his state faster than others did, again, against fierce opposition. Remember when he was doing all of this? The then governor of New York, Cuomo, was doing the opposite, as was the governor of California. And people were attacking Ron DeSantis like nobody's business. In fact, when I ran for governor, I was accused of trying to turn California into Florida. Well, now we're finding out that Florida was what to do, that the vaccine mandates should not have been required, that young people were not likely to get sick, schools should not have been shut down. Even the World Health Organization is now saying that the lockdowns did not work. So over the long haul, Ron DeSantis has been vindicated, but it was not at all clear at the time that he was going to be vindicated. That took a great deal of, as I put it, cashews.
We set out a vision. We executed on that vision, and we produced historic results. And the people of this state have responded in record fashion. Now, while our country flounders due to failed leadership in Washington, Florida is on the right track.
Meanwhile, the anchors over on MSNBC Hee Haw that I watched You Don't Have To were stunned, astonished, apoplectic over the fact that this man carried Miami-Dade.
So let's put this in some perspective. Miami-Dade County has 2.75 million people. In 2016, this was a Democratic county by 30 points. Hillary Clinton won this county by 30 points. Miami-Dade is 70% Hispanic. It began shifting to the Republicans in 2020.
Again, 70% Hispanic.
Donald Trump only lost it by 7. And look at this. In the mail-in and early vote, which again tends to be more Democratic friendly, Marco Rubio, the Republican, is outright leading in Miami-Dade County by 7 points over Val Demings, the Democratic challenger.
And it looks as if Ron DeSantis took that county by an even bigger margin. Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, says, watch out for the Hispanic vote.
By the way, the Hispanic vote is the big message. And to see what's happened with the Hispanic vote across Virginia, we won it last year, and to see the Hispanic vote really break that way, and then of course we've seen what's happened in Florida, in Miami-Dade County, with the Hispanic vote being the big differentiator. And I think that's the big message tonight, is to see this glacial shift in this demographic across America.
Hispanics don't like inflation. Hispanics don't want wokeism in their school. Hispanics don't want porous borders. Hispanics want something done about the 2, 3, 4, 5 million people who've been in this country illegally since the beginning of the Biden administration. And more broadly, Democrats in Florida are beginning to have real concerns about the future of the Democratic Party.
We are here inside of Ron DeSantis' election headquarters in the Tampa Convention Center. This room is just ready to explode. And as joyous as everyone is here inside this room right now, they are feeling the exact opposite way on the Democratic side of the ticket right now. I spent the day talking to a few Democrats. Let me just give you a couple bullet points of what I was told. The Democratic Party in Florida needs to clean house. There has been a failure of leadership, and we are getting our butts kicked. They acknowledge how the Republicans are more disciplined. They show up to the polls. Voter turnout very low on the Democratic side. They feel that they have dropped the ball here in the Sunshine State, especially on voter registration, and they have serious concerns about the future of the party in this state. Remember, Florida, it turned blue for Barack Obama twice. A much different story right now in 2022.
So as I said, if you are a Republican, and I am one, there is some good news. Also, there's this. I've been talking about this for years regarding the Hispanic vote. This Black Lives Matter stuff that the majority of blacks support, the support among Hispanics is substantially below that. Tucker Carlson picked that up.
It's Miami-Dade County that really jumps out at you. DeSantis lost it by a lot 4 years ago. He's winning it pretty solidly, it looks like right now. So what you're looking at is a realignment of voters. And I really think we're undervaluing the extent to which BLM, the Democratic Party going all in for the Black Lives Matter movement in the summer of 2020, really moved Hispanic voters to the Republican side. I think it shows up in polling results. Nobody wants to say it, but it's absolutely a meaningful factor, I would say, in this. But I mean, if tomorrow morning we wake up and these numbers in Miami-Dade and Texas are real, and possibly in Arizona, then I think you're looking at really a different Democratic coalition.
It would be a seismic shift, even among blacks. They're beginning to move, although not nearly in as big a way as Hispanics, to the Republican side. Donald Trump got 12% of the black vote in 2020. It looks like maybe 16%, 17% right now, blacks supporting the Republican Party. Now, let's talk about Donald Trump. Beto O'Rourke, by the way, who ran against Donald Trump on the Democratic side in 2020, has lost his second race for governor. Georgia Republican Brian Kemp, the governor, he's the one that Donald Trump pressured to find some votes that he thought were fraudulent in the 2020 election. Recall that Brian Kemp refused to do so, and Donald Trump and Brian Kemp have had a very, very tortured relationship as a result. Well, Brian Kemp handily defeated Stacey Abrams again J.D. Vance, the Republican who ran for Senate, Donald Trump backed him. He did win his race. However, the party spent some $30 million to make that happen. Now, in the battleground state of Pennsylvania, as you know, Donald Trump supported Mehmet Oz. Oz has lost to John Fetterman. I kid you not. I saw that debate. I thought Oz cleaned his clock. But remember, by the time the debate took place, almost half of the voters in that state had already voted. And the way that Oz comported himself during that debate, I thought was quite impressive. Although, remember, when Donald Trump backed Oz, Oz was not the hands-on favorite to win that primary. But for Donald Trump's endorsement, Oz probably would not have won. And a lot of people felt that he was not the best candidate in order to take on John Fetterman. Oz was considered to be by many people a carpetbagger, and but for his relationship with Donald Trump, many people feel that Oz would not have been the nominee. Same thing with General Bulldog in New Hampshire. He was endorsed by Donald Trump. He was a so-called election denier, and a lot of Democrats wanted him to be the nominee. Indeed, they even put money in his candidacy because they wanted him to be the nominee against the incumbent. Well, that strategy apparently worked because he was the nominee and he did not win. In fact, he lost by a pretty big margin. So the analysis for a lot of people is that Donald Trump endorsed a number of candidates, to be sure. Most of the candidates he endorsed won, but the high-profile ones in Pennsylvania, in New Hampshire, in Ohio, again, with the assistance of the $30 million, Vance might very well have lost that. In Georgia, you're talking about Herschel Walker, and apparently in Georgia, that's going to go to a runoff because neither Walker nor Warnock ended up getting more than 50% of the vote, which leads us to go to Arizona. In Arizona, Donald Trump endorsed Kari Lake, and I endorsed her as well. Went to Arizona on her behalf. Donald Trump did a number of rallies, I think, with her. And she apparently is going to eke out a victory, but it wasn't nearly as big as a lot of people thought. And some people felt that Donald Trump was a drag on her, that she got a little too close to him. Again, I'm not quite sure that I accept that analysis, but that is what a lot of people are feeling, not only just outside the Republican Party, but inside the Republican Party. Blake Masters. Blake Masters is also the Senate candidate in Arizona, and he was endorsed by Donald Trump. And right now, as I speak, he is down by a few points. All the votes are not yet in, but it's not at all clear he's going to win. In Nevada, I endorsed Adam Laxalt. I assume that Donald Trump did as well, and it looks like Adam Laxalt is going to win. So we still have a Senate that's divided. It's still up in the air. We still don't know what's going to happen in the case of Arizona with Blake Masters. We still don't know what's going to happen in Georgia because there is going to be a runoff on December 6th. Now, Donald Trump, of course, took credit for the candidates he backed and offered no love for Mr. Ron DeSantis.
In Ohio, J.D. Vance is now leading 52-47. And we had an incredible rally last night in Ohio. And you saw that in Florida, Marco Rubio, we had an unbelievable rally for Marco the night before with the heaviest rain I've ever been involved with. I was up there. It was beautiful, everything. This is the tropics, right, Florida?
Didn't say one word about Ron DeSantis.
It was so beautiful. It was the most beautiful night. And all of a sudden it turned deadly dark. And it was like you had massive pails of water that just fell on top of me. We went through the worst storm, but we gutted it out. I had no teleprompters. We had 45,000 people out there. We had no teleprompter. And I said, I wonder what Biden would do right now. But we gutted it out. And it was amazing. But Marco had a fantastic evening at 58-41. That's really tremendous. That's as of this moment. Katie Britt, I want to congratulate Katie Britt. We endorse Katie.
There was a cover of the New York Post with a picture of Ron DeSantis and his wife, and it said, "The future." And a lot of Republicans are beginning to feel that maybe, just maybe, Ron DeSantis might be the future. That brings us back to Georgia for a second. Keep in mind the Georgia contest between two black men. This is Georgia, the Deep South, where my dad was born during Jim Crow era. You have a black Republican, Herschel Walker, swearing off against a black Democrat, Raphael Warnock. And Howard Stern, however, said this.
some of these candidates that people are actually Herschel Walker, holy they're saying he's going to win in Georgia. Are you dummies? There's going to be, and they always talk about another civil war. Well, I think there is going to be one. I mean, how could you elect that guy? You got to be out of your skull.
Another civil war. Again, this is not like the North and the South. These are two black men running against each other. And if Herschel Walker wins, is it going to be a civil war because a black man defeated a black man? Are you smoking something? Civil war. They're going to be a civil war. How could you effing nominate John Fetterman? He lied or refused to disclose the fact that he had a stroke 2 days before the primary. Won't turn over his medical records. You saw that debate between him and Oz. He's not a problem, but Herschel Walker is. And Howard Stern says if Walker gets elected, there's going to be a civil war. Black man defeats another black man in Georgia. Georgia. Deep Crow South, Georgia. Civil war. Now, we are at the halfway point. Remember, go to LarryWithEpic.com in order to watch the rest of the show. First half hour of the show for free. We're just getting into a groove right now. The second half of the show, even better. LarryWithEpic.com. We come back, we're going to talk about Stacey Abrams. This time, she conceded right away. Don't go away.